Well, I think, for example, young people, especially young people of today, they are more in tune with their mental health. So it's different to adults and how they used to manage um, back in the day. And I can't really say manage mental health, but I guess that was really what they did, manage mental health. But with the young people, they're more inclined to speak out. You know, when something is bothering them, they're more inclined to have a bit more knowledge as it relates to mental health and what mental health might look like. Um, and they are more likely to speak about, you know, if they are feeling emotionally unsteady, unstable, and wanting to express their feelings and being heard. So that's really why young people would reach out for assistance.
I feel amongst youth, I feel it's something that I just look at it from two standpoints. So in terms of like the youth themselves, among themselves, them is sometimes, you know, it's be like a little jokey moment when you're going through like a rough patch. Then would be like, you know, I real depressed, or then would like just use it in terms of sometimes like just a comedic element. But on the line for that, like them might be serious. And then from the standpoint of like the older generation probably looking at youth is just like them probably just seeing like depression as the person being sad and anxiety as the person being nervous. Obviously, no being educated more. If I was supposed to look back and think, I would say that when I was like in secondary school, so like I want to say around like second form, because the way how I train to interpret it is like obviously it's a dancer, so I'd be performing, so I know what nervous is. So then it would be like, this feel a little bit more than nervous. Like, why my heart beating so fast? Like, why my mind all over the place? Why it feeling like I can't do everyday things that I normally doing? And then in terms of depression, it's just like, again, being like existing in life for so long, it's just like, this is a little bit more than sadness. This leaning pun, like, I don't want to be here anymore.
In retrospect, I realized that like I had depression a lot longer than I realized. So it's like the irritability. I was pissed during secondary school, like all the time. Just very angry for no reason, really. Just that's how like I expressed what I was feeling. But yeah, all through secondary school, I was really angry. I was a bully. If I'm being honest and candid, I bullied people for being dumb. In retrospect, that was just like how I was handling being depressed or like not being happy.
Well, I guess in terms of, for me, in terms of depression and anxiety, um, it was when I was here at Harrison College, which is where we are right now, in I think about fourth or fifth form. I came to school one day and it was like having all these pressures of CSAT. Like most people do it, but those are like normal for CSAT and any sort of exams for any child really. But during that period, I wasn't really getting the results that I would have wanted to, and I was dealing with a lot of cricket. I think I was just coming off doing music as well, and it was a lot of pressure that I just felt, and with mental health especially and stuff like that and anxiety, it's like those symptoms. I really was. I obviously didn't know what it was at the time, but I just remember coming to school and sitting down at lunchtime, and for the entire day, really, I just felt in a way like by yourself. But then like, there's friends that want you to come and play football or enjoy the lunchtime. But I remember just sitting there, just not doing anything. And just people were asking me if it was good and everything, but I just didn't know how to respond.
Depression when I was still in secondary school, sixth form. I was still living at home with my mother and my stepfather, and that was not like the best environment for me like mentally. So I found that sometimes I would be very like stressed out if everybody's at home with me. So I would try to kind of like stay away from home as much as possible, like go out late, that kind of thing, you know, try to stay at school very long. And then I realized that I would get like all these like thoughts, you know, about like harming myself or different things or harming others, just to not exist, to not be here anymore. So that was kind of when I realized that, okay, maybe it's not normal, and that maybe I need to look into either hiding it better, or because I was like angry all the time, honestly. I was very angry as a young person. Anxiety, when certain people would talk to me or have like deadlines coming at something that's very important, I find that I would be shaking or I'd be very nervous, or I'd have like IBS and all the different things. And it's only like later on in life I realized that that is like performance anxiety. So
I would say when I transitioned from primary school to secondary school, because that was a culture shock for me, going from a private school to a public school. And it was harder for me to adjust. So people weren't as nice, or the teachers were as forgiving or understanding. So putting somebody who is not only just anxious, but socially anxious into a setting where I now have to speak for myself, it was a shock. And then obviously having different people around me who didn't like me for whatever reason, whether it's because I came from a private school that I was posh or whatnot, that kind of I want to say that jump-started the depression, because people are not liking me for something I cannot change. I didn't choose this, so.
COVID we know was a major thing that would cause the anxiety and the depression, simply because it was something different to the normal that we were accustomed to. And with young people, you guys tend to be a lot more open and outgoing for the most part. And so when things like that were taken away, it really created a reality shift. So you had to figure out, where do I fit into this now? It was already, you were trying to figure out where you fit in a normal world. Imagine how you're trying to fit now in a COVID world. And so it got a bit difficult. Not being able to celebrate major milestones that you normally would, for example. That takes an adjustment as well. So I think that all of those contributed to those anxiety and depressive symptoms that came up. And then of course you had the regular things, maybe things happening at home, or during COVID as well. I can go back there and, being forced to stay in a house with people that you didn't really talk to very much, right? You can imagine how that would feel. And so, yeah, all of those things would contribute to anxiety symptoms and depressive symptoms.
Most impactful, I would say, would probably be when the person I was dating, we had broken up, but we were still friends and communicating and stuff like that as friends. But she had started to see someone else, obviously, because we were broken up. But she didn't tell me until months after, right? So all that time I'm believing that, we're still friends and we could be open and honest still, but she was keeping that from me. And that kind of threw me for a loop when she told me. Yeah, so that was probably my lowest point. How was that my lowest point? Because I'm not a big fan of alcohol, but I felt like that was the solution to help me process that conversation and continue to talk to her. And in a kind of way of emotional self-harm, I was asking her questions about it, which probably shouldn't have been doing, and I was just crying and drinking, and I drank 3/4 of a bottle of vodka by myself that night, and I was just crying. Yeah, that was one of my lowest points.
The lowest point, I think about my time at BCC. I remember thinking I would like to give up on art altogether. I'd like to give up on this course because it's wasting my time. These people don't care about me. They don't care about how I'm feeling. I had gotten sick because of all the rehearsing I had been doing. And I'd never gotten sick that often. And I felt because of the program, I felt I had lost my idea of self-care and what it meant to take care of myself. And then my mother was starting her business, and so I was helping her. And it felt like I was working 24/7 between school and between like having my mother's business. And it didn't seem like she cared either about like how I was feeling and how tired I was. And it was just a cycle of work, being sick and still having to work, being sick and still having to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get to school for 9 o'clock, to rehearse from 9 till 3 o'clock in the evening, then still have classes. And I just got very depressed.
I think the lowest point had to be my second semester or first semester at university, when I was one of the factors that contributed to it was I was going through a breakup and also entering this new school system, so never had to deal with this type of workload before, as well as ending a relationship. All of that combined stressed me out, made me super anxious, biting my nails all the time. So I just kind of shut down, and then I became somebody else, started going out more, acting different, because I guess that's my coping mechanism.
Sure. So, okay, so if we're looking at anxiety then, so I think everybody probably knows what those signs and symptoms might feel like, I should say. So anxiety, for instance, you would have someone whose stomach may start to feel tense or start to bubble over. I had somebody express that, feeling like your stomach is bubbling, feeling that you're starting to tremble, sweating. And then, of course, you can have headaches as well. You can have nausea. Some people do feel sick, like they're going to throw up. So all of those can be symptoms of the anxiety. And with depression now, we have depression. The term depression is used because it means that there's a loss for the interest of things that you used to like to do, decreased ability to function at work and at home. So you're feeling sad all the time, or you're having a depressed mood, loss of interest in activities that used to cause you pleasure, trouble sleeping, so you're not sleeping properly, weight loss, or even weight gain. And all those things relate to depression.
I want to say for my lowest point, let me break it up into two things. So the first one being like, I was like studying science for 3 years, and then it was like, oh my word, this is not what I want to do. So then thinking to myself, you invest 3 years of your life into this, and then all of a sudden realizing that this is not it, it's kind of not really I would say from normal society standpoint, it's just like, yeah, that's not a choice for you to be doing. Like, so then that was kind of like pushed me into this start spiral part. It's just like, geez, that doesn't mean I gotta do something that I don't like for the rest of my life. And then, you know, already society got this thing that is be kind of like, I don't know if it really people has talked about it, but it's like, the way how society structured, your job is kind of like, be like your whole life. And I about that. So it was just kind of me realizing what my word was. If this one thing that I was going to make my whole life be about, I ain't doing it no more, what the hell I going to do in my life? But what kind of made me spiral deeper was like, I want to say, like, getting to the point where part I was on like on a self-love journey, trying to accept myself. And obviously, again, existing in a space where part you kind of invalidated at every turn, ain't really easy for you to accept yourself. So I want to say that my lowest point was me not accepting myself while trying to accept myself. So it was kind of like working against it because, well, in my head, it was just like, yeah, I accept myself. Then I would look in the mirror and be like, nah, boy, I don't like you.
I did find myself like shaking quite a bit sometimes, where I would be in a corner or just wandering and breathing really, really heavily and trying to focus on one thing at the moment. And I guess what I kind of learned from all that was to like just take things slowly or try to live more in the moment. Looking back, I know to where I am now is kind of like valuing more things as it is. Being, I guess I experienced the traumas of death and stuff like that in my life. And how that affected me, I kind of looked at things and looked at life differently, especially now, I guess. having gone through all these emotions and symptoms of depression and anxiety, I want to be able to live more in the moment and enjoy life day by day, you know, and take things a lot slower, because I found that a lot of the pressures, like the pressures of life in a sense, where it was academics or the pressures of wanting to do well and having to worry about these simple things in life in a sense, got to me a lot. But it's gotten a lot better to the extent where I can now forget about those things and not focus on those things so much and put those things aside a lot better.
I was told that not everyone needs 12 weeks. Some people need more, some people need less. But the general thing for them was 12 weeks. I had to do a lot of homework, really and truly, about myself. So I was journaling, I had my mantra, I did a lot of like reflection. There are meditation techniques. There is the 5 senses thing, which is like 5 things that you could see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you could smell, 2 things that you could touch, and 1 thing that you could taste. So a lot of different things I learned.
To be honest, I couldn't relate to the whole like being sad inside. That's because that's just generally how it is as a person. I do not want to be socializing or outside with anyone. So for me, yeah, I was about here working for myself. I was just like, I get through so much breakthroughs for myself during the pandemic. I was just like, every time Auntie Mia, the Honorable Prime Minister of Barbados was like, yeah, we'll have to extend the pause. I was just like, for sure, turn it up. Like, yes, of course, no problem. Whatever you say. So I was real good. Like, I honestly, I want to say, like, enjoyed it, because on the other side of it, obviously, I would be thinking about everybody else that's going through a hard time right now. But to be truthful, like, I cannot relate to not doing well during the pandemic.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's what I would say. I'm not somebody that likes to ask for help. I know how hard-headed I can be at sometimes. But it's those little moments that when you do need help, there's so much information out there on the internet. So many numbers you can call, people you can reach out to, even if it's your closest friend, cousin, granny, auntie, uncle, anybody really.
I'd say talk to people, even though it might be hard. Talking to people can help in more ways than you expect, whether you're talking to them for like receiving advice or whether you're just literally venting to get it off your chest. It's better to get it off your chest than to sit and think about it and wallow in all of the depression and anxiety. And if it is severe, definitely seek help, because there's nothing worse than wallowing in it and then something bad happening.
Therapy. Therapy. Capital THERAPY. Therapy. The Barbados Council for Substance Abuse, I think that's what it's called. They do free therapy for Barbadian citizens. I think it's like a 12-week program. If they do recognize that you have like, deeper issues that free therapy can't fix, they will like recommend you to people. But I do 100% recommend therapy. Knowing your triggers is one thing, because we can't all afford it, or we don't all have the time for it realistically. So knowing what triggers you, and knowing what calms you down are the people to be around or to avoid when you are like going through a bout of depression.
Don't try to rush the process of healing, because it's a very long process sometimes, and it takes a strong person to ask for help, to admit to yourself, first of all, that you are not handling things as well as you could be, and to admit to somebody else, to like in order to get that help. And then you need to then be open with whoever is giving you help, whether it's a therapist, a psychiatrist, another doctor, a pastor, like whoever you are getting this help from. You need to be open and honest with that person and yourself, and just take it one day at a time. That's about it. Just keep trying. That's the most important part.